Radio. Yeah, you already know. Talk Riff Radio. It's time to start the show.
You sent me some really interesting articles, kind of the one that pertained to the big chunk of the first episode, the scamflation episode, had to do with student rates of enrollment at major universities. And yeah, you sent me something about Trump, which is always a good read, but you probably did a little bit more reading into it than I did. What did you get from it?
Yeah, so big news today was that Trump says he's going to allow for 600,000 students to come into our system from China. And this is a nice throwback topic to our previous episode, because we were mentioning how based on the generational numbers of younger generations having less people than previous generations, this is almost exactly what we were talking about. And they are trying to backfill those universities, because they're saying that the bottom 15% of universities would go out of business if they weren't able to fill up the seats. And so they're importing 600,000 students from China alone. So you could imagine how many other countries that they're also bringing students in from, just in order to keep these businesses or universities afloat.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So 15% of the sort of universities, that number, I just looked up how many universities are there in the U.S., and there's between 4,000 to 6,000 post-secondary institutions in the U.S. So we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of universities that aren't financially viable without these students coming in on programs like this.
Student visas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible, like the sense of desperation that's happening, and I feel like that there's a sense of desperation in the air here in America. And the best part about the internet is that we're actually being able to witness this stuff in like almost real time, to be able to get a perspective of the actual economic crisis. And sometimes it almost feels like this economic crisis that we are in currently is almost it's so much information that it's hard to see what the actual truth is, because there's so much information being dumped on us all the time. But nuggets like this are gems.
Yeah, and you're right. There is an overwhelming amount of information, but I'd rather have it be an overwhelming amount of information than a prescribed set agenda of information. And at least it allows us to kind of filter it on our own and figure out what's going on. So yeah, the internet and just being able to share this information is huge, which we didn't have. I mean, the internet's been around for a while, but we didn't have it like this, where news topics are the currency of the world now, which is exciting, because it's just, it's great to have info. It really helps you kind of decide what's important to you. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's really funny, because like you're saying, like the news is the currency of the internet right now. And the coolest part is that it's a decentralized and transparent comment section on these centralized stories that are coming out. So even though something might come out from the New York Times or from these centralized institutions that have been around for so long, the comments and like the ability to clip something and make a comment on your own is the transparent part, because people's opinions actually go further today than they ever did. And so you get that information firsthand, which you wouldn't have gotten before when you were just reading the newspaper and then waiting for the newspaper to come out the next week or the next day.
Yeah, and you're right. Opinions are so readily available that they really are the kind of, they're almost the underlying currency. You know, where the news article might be the product, the currency to purchase that product with, you know, sort of social value and credit is how it makes people feel. And it's ultimately subjective, and it's a really good representation of just how people are feeling on a daily basis. And, you know, sites like X and Reddit and things like that, where everyone has an equal voice, it's something that no one's really experienced before the internet was able to share it with everyone. And it's really exciting.
Yeah. What other news stories did you find interesting? Have you heard about this screw worm that was confirmed in Maryland?
I just from what you sent me today.
You didn't hear about it before?
No, I didn't even look into it very much. I read the headline, but it's like a disease from the past, essentially, or is it something new?
I don't know if it's new or old. Obviously, it's a life form, so it's been here for some time. But like the thing is that it usually doesn't affect like human beings. Is I guess what I'm reading about it, and so like this is the first human screw worm case that was confirmed. It's a parasite that eats cattle typically, and people alive. It will literally eat people alive. So the CDC was the first to discover it, but they were silent. And then some vet found out through back channels, and that's how this information, the Maryland State vet was the one that they said the CSC knew for a while, but it evidently came from Guatemala through probably the cattle exports from Central America. We get a lot of our beef and our cattle from down there. And so this basically is a parasite that will eat humans alive.
Well, that's the worst kind, I think, of parasite.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I obviously my problem solver brain is just like, how do we avoid things like this happening? And maybe it's a little bit defeatist, but sometimes I feel like these things are going to happen from time to time, just with the way that factory farming and how little the health of the animals and ultimately the health of the consumer is thought about when these farms are set up and how they're run.
Yeah, but it's not from America.
No, but
it's from Central America, and you're talking about the jungle of South America where there's tons of animals and things like in the rainforest that like shouldn't be up in America, but we're bringing these cattle up.
Well, I think
here.
the reason they're up here is because it's less expensive to grow these animals in places where the health regulations and animal regulations are even less strict than they are here. So there's got to be a financial incentive for these companies to outsource the beef, and then that's pumping money into an industry that is a petri dish for crazy parasites. And then where this is the downside of deregulating factory farming, I feel, is this is going to happen from time to time.
If they kept factory farms alive in America, it would be a way healthier, process than the factory farms that are in third world countries. So I think majorly it's about keeping American beef and American cattle like as pristine as possible and not allowing for outside sources of cattle to come into this country, because those places where the cattle are coming from aren't actually regulated like an American factory farm is regulated.
Yeah, and I think the scary part is that it is capable of happening here, and it's capable of happening even worse in a way because of the amount of antibiotics that we give to the animals in American factory farming. We have the risk of producing a greater risk of producing, medicine resistant strains of bacteria and parasites and viruses that find a way through. They're trying to survive just like every other living organism. So when we provide them with sort of the map to beat us by giving them all this medication, the ones that do survive and the ones that do proliferate are going to be even harder to control and possibly even more dangerous. Now, it's going to happen less often, but really what needs to happen is kind of a switch to just a more sustainable, cleaner way of creating this beef. And also it's going to have to come along with a reduction in consumption, because the only way we keep our consumption at the level that it is right now is factory farming. So it's really up to the people to reduce their consumption. That's the only way that it's not going to be viable anymore to factory farm.
Honestly, these are, in my opinion, it's more so about imports than it is about American products. And for so long, the American cattle farmer has been put down, and the regulations have been harder and harder on the American made beef. And so these cattle farmers in America have had the regulations come down on them. So in order for the big business beef is basically sideswiping around, or going around the American cattle farmer and getting the cheaper product. And what's happening is that because the American beef is more expensive because it's grown here in America, it's like American-made products. American-made products are going to be more expensive than the products coming from Guatemala.
Oh, yeah.
But you're gonna get cheaper products coming in as an import, and these big businesses are taking that exported or imported product because it's cheaper and then upselling it here with a bigger profit. So it's all about profit incentives that are literally destroying our local cattle farmers. And you can think of it more on the side of that than, say, factory farming, because not every cattle farm is a factory farm.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think that, you're right that it's harder and harder to be a small business, especially in a commodities market. You're always they're going to try and outregulate you by forcing more and more expensive solutions to problems that shouldn't exist in the first place. If you're allowing your cows to go and eat grass in a pasture, the chances of them getting sick because they're not just standing in each other's poop 24 hours a day it's a problem that should be able to solve itself. Applying regulations to a cattle rancher that's been doing it for 10 generations, or however long generations is a weird measurement of time, but
60 generations.
It's not fair. They're definitely trying to push them out, and it might be so. Where I live, there's a giant manufacturer of pharmaceutical drugs for livestock. It's one of the bigger industries here.
Shout out, sponsor us.
Yeah, Zoetis. Yeah, sponsor us. That what they're probably doing is lobbying for these regulations that allow them to sell more of their pharmaceuticals, right? I mean, that's that's their game, is they're trying to move as much of their antibiotic products for chickens and cows and sheep, and maybe not the sheep, probably the sheep too, everything, and the pigs.
I mean, obviously these. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was my point. Is just the money of these regulations is probably in the pharmaceutical industry for livestock.
Yeah, and the pharmaceutical industry for livestock really is what you're talking about, where it's the reason why they're needing to pump them full of antibiotics and are because the fact that they're in bad conditions and not in
Correct.
a field somewhere, not standing. So the animals that are, so they probably are pushing for more farmers to have animals standing in their own shit than they are legislating for farmers to have their animals free roaming and grazing. So they're actually incentivizing factory farms here in order to sell the pharmaceuticals, because they don't sell pharmaceuticals to the cattle farmer who's like having fresh beef grown on, or cattle grown on the prairie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the amount of disease must be lower, and then also just the quantity of cows, the heads of cattle is much lower. So who are you going to target? Are you going to target, are you going to mold your business model around ranchers or around giant factory farmers? The scalability is so much greater if you model it towards promoting these giant, disgusting places that are eventually going to cause us to have lower testosterone levels and thyroid problems, because we're getting the antibiotics in our food and all of these antiviral medications and just crazy stuff. We're eating it on a daily basis. And then that leads into the human pharmaceutical lobby. Like, why wouldn't they promote factory farming if it keeps us sick? Which is,
you are what you eat.
Yeah. So if you're a bunch of poison, you're going to be a toxic individual.
Mm-hmm. I think this story also comes up in light of this story is, you can go down the path of also thinking about the types of invasive species that arrive on our borders from other countries. Mm-hmm. And so this parasite, I would consider an invasive species of animal. And the only way that it arrives is through human intervention in this system. Humans are the ones that carried this parasite from the faraway place to this place. So without humans doing that, importing this, or importing or exporting, whatever, that parasite would stay in the place that it was born in. And that is key, because a lot of invasive species, like, it's a human influence on the environment that brings these parasites or these invasive species from a place where it has its home to our shores. Like, these barnacle issues that, like, certain barnacles come on ships. They're in the actual hull where they fill up water in the hull of the ships.
The polyps.
There's there is certain stuff that came and starts being invasive in America based on just the shipping routes. There in Australia, when you arrive in Australia on an airplane, I remember from flying there in 2006 or 2000, somewhere in 2007, 2008, I went to Australia. They have this gas come through the vents when you arrive in the airplane itself. And then these guys in hazmat suits walk down the aisle and literally gas you with some fucking stuff. You don't know what the fuck is in that. And that's all because they're an island continent and they don't want invasive species coming and arriving into their country, because it would wreck their whole ecosystem.
Oh, sure.
We don't. I have no idea what the hell they sprayed me with, but that is the extreme measures that a country takes in order to make sure that they're not having invasive species come in. So I can say that not only is this parasite maybe something that like they could have done something about by just protecting the border and or understanding imports and what the potential hazards are coming from these other places, but they should have spotted this before it got into a situation where this is now eating humans alive.
The truth is probably that they did know about it, and the profit margins justified importing it anyway.
Anyways, let's get on to another subject. This is fucking pissing me off. All right. Speaking of health, all right, we got the New York Times article where the headline is 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups in under 10 minutes. What could go wrong? Fitness experts caution against jumping into a difficult routine suggested by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. What are your thoughts? Do you believe this is happening in our country, that the fucking newspaper is telling us that if you did 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups in 10 minutes, you're fucking gonna die?
Exercise is bad for you now. Yeah, that's a totally politically slanted take and article, and it just reminds me of why I don't read the New York Times or trust anything from them anymore.
You know, in gym class, in high school, they made me run like a 5.5 minute mile, and what was it, 5.5, or it must have been 5 or 6.5 minute mile. Do 20 pull-ups in, I don't know if it was in 10 minutes, but like however much time it took you. But I would just say that, like, how the fuck can anybody tell you that exercising and doing push-ups and pull-ups is going, like, something is wrong with America if this is what's going to affect you, is like you're saying that exercising is going to make something worse in your body?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously lack of exercise is a problem in America. But also, yeah, definitely this article specifically is a great example of what's wrong with the news media. I mean, they just don't like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That's the only reason.
Is it that, or is it like, I mean, I honestly can also think that like they might be looking out for the best interest of America. America is fat and obese. If a fat and obese person tried to do 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups in under 10 minutes, I bet something would go wrong.
Yes, they wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't be able to.
But if they tried, so they might throw out their back. They might their lungs might collapse.
It's true,
I have no idea.
but I think the writing of the headline is also misleading. They're not saying that. Yeah,
no, I agree.
I know you're just taking the devil's advocate stance, which I like.
But like what's the percentage of obese in this country? It's like over 50%.
Yeah, if not more, 60, something like that.
So going 0 to 100 is probably going to hurt some. Like, I mean,
if you go off that BMI index chart from like 1927 or whenever that thing was written, you're still doing great, but like 90% of the people are obese.
Let's get into something even on the opposite side of that. Some guy, this is a free diver, Vitamir Marikic. He just held his breath underwater for 29 minutes and 3 seconds, setting a Guinness Book of World Records for the longest breath held voluntarily underwater.
Why do they put voluntarily in there?
I don't know.
Do they have a record for for drowning someone?
Damn, dude, that's so intense. There's somebody out there in the world that holds the Guinness Book of World Records for involuntary holding their breath.
It's the first
underwater.
guy that drowned.
Concrete shoes. Well, how'd he do it? Concrete shoes.
The first Homo sapien that accidentally, got caught in a riptide. He's been holding his breath for 30,000 years.
Still holding it. Still fucking holding it.
Involuntarily. He is a record holder, though.
These
Got to give him his props.
the mob bosses from Vegas, they had a stopwatch, and they're like, all right, throw him in the Lake Tahoe, and let's start a fucking stopwatch and send this record to Guinness.
Well, the Guinness guy was there. He had his little clipboard and his suit jacket on with the little Guinness logo. It's like, hey, let's bring the Guinness guy out here for this.
There's a gun to his back. Just
So we got the
watch
record,
him.
huh?
What? Take notes. Yeah, so we got the record. Huh?
So I read this article that you sent, and it's interesting because he falls into a category of record holders for holding your breath, where it's assisted. So there's an assisted aspect of it where he spent 10 minutes breathing pure oxygen right before he went in. So it purged his blood of carbon dioxide and nitrogen, and his blood was just super rich with oxygen, so it allowed him to hold it longer, which it's probably still crazy impressive, but when I read further, I was like, oh, he's gaming the system. Like, he didn't do it in natural circumstances. He hyperbaric chambered it.
When I read the article, I was thinking to myself, like, I had this thought previously about how, how babies, when they're born, like, if you do water birth, they can just stay underwater.
Yeah, they're receiving oxygen still through the umbilical cord blood.
Yeah. So my thought a long time ago was just thinking, what if you kept a kid underwater? You cut the umbilical cord, but then you created this box, and the box sits on their stomach, and then you keep them underwater, and there's probably a whole life, like a whole bunch of people that just stayed underwater, and they have this, like, basically a box that just shreds fish just straight in, and they catch fish, and they live underwater. The whole idea of Atlantis, it still exists. It's just like people, there's a whole water people. That's probably like where mermaids are, or that they had.
It's possible. Anything is possible in the multiverse. Anything is possible.
They probably laugh at us land people. They're like, you fucking idiots. You went out of the water.
Us here just stuck to the ground. We can't, like, traverse vertically like they can. It's just free to swim around. We're just stuck here.
The whole idea is they're laughing at this guy for holding his breath for 29 minutes, like, making fun of him. He had nitrogenize his blood.
There is
loser.
An argument that since we live on a planet that's mostly water, that we will, or we already have evolved a humanoid species that could survive underwater. Whales didn't evolve in the ocean. They moved into the ocean. Sea mammals existed on land before they evolved into the water. Fish the other way around, turning into amphibians and reptiles and things like that. But anything that breathes oxygen went the other way. So we breathe oxygen. We live on this planet. Eventually, there's an idea that we could develop gills. If you've ever seen the movie Waterworld, I think that's a pretty good documentary on what the future might look like.
Or is that the past? Like, that's how we all started from the water, and, like, just because we're on land today doesn't mean. Is that what you're saying?
So,
sorry.
It is true that everything started in the soup, right? And then mammals emerged,
right?
But then mammals went back into the water and became whales and dolphins and seals and and water mammals. So eventually, it'll be our turn to evolve into water animals.
Oh, so these mammals, they went out of the water and then they went back into the water, and that's how they became mammals in water?
Yeah, they came out and they started breathing air because they started exploring and searching for food on the land masses. But then at some point, they went back in and became ocean mammals.
They're way smarter than us.
They've been around a lot longer, if that's a gauge.
They're way smarter. Why did anybody that stayed on land? They honestly that's why the dolphins are always like side swimming, and they're just waving and laughing, and they're like pointing their fingers at us like, you're still on a boat, you retard.
Did you ever see dolphins when you were surfing in Santa Barbara? Did they ever come up to you?
I have. Well, in Santa Cruz, I have, and I've seen them in San Diego too.
Yeah,
what about you?
Santa Barbara, when we would go out, it's sometimes early in the morning. If you were out there catching waves, they would also be out catching waves too. And
yeah, I saw them.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say it's kind of a super intense, like kind of almost scary feeling and experience.
Yeah, I saw them in San Diego. I was watching surfers out in the water. I was on the beach and I took pictures. I had my nice camera and I was taking pictures. Well, all of a sudden, the dolphins were also surfing the same wave as the surfer, and I got a couple good shots of them, like just side by side. Like I don't even know if the surfer saw
It's possibly
that
not.
he was on the same wave as the dolphin. Yeah, it was super cool, man.
Well, talk about like silent and like sneaking up on you, and then you just kind of see a shadow, and your brain, my brain, I shouldn't say your brain, but my brain instantly goes, there's a shark. So that's like the adrenaline dump.
That's
right
what happened
there.
to me.
But then you kind of eventually, they're out there long enough, you realize it's not. But it's kind of like, oh well, this is it, I'm gonna get eaten. And then they're just like super playful and curious, and they're probably very intelligent. I feel it's almost sort of a dog-like innocence in a way when they're all playing, and they have that kind of strange smile all the time too on their faces.
Yeah, also, humans are kind of that dog-like playfulness too. So we're all pretty
especially
similar.
surfers,
mammals. Yeah, and surfers.
Yeah.
I got this other story up. This is really interesting because I know that you started making some music and posting them on our YouTube page. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, or I don't know if hopefully our listeners have gone and been able to find our music playlist that we're building.
Yeah, the playlist that we're building is just kind of a fun tie-in to the shows, kind of themed songs that go along with the episodes. And I'm just kind of dipping my toe in producing, I guess you could call it, AI generated music. But the article that you sent is really interesting. I kind of understand the premise of him making money on it. I'm just trying to pull it up so I don't say
I got it here.
about it, but there's a mugshot of him, which is interesting.
I don't know if it's a mugshot or if that's just how he looks, man, on a daily basis.
A mugshot, dude. We'll have to try and find a way to put it in the feed, but
you can't get arrested for this. I don't think if that is a mug shot, then I don't know why they associated the mug shot with this story, because
it doesn't say he did anything illegal from the story.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't think it's a mug. I don't think it's a mug shot, dude.
Let me read just the part that you sent here. So it says, this man, Michael's. First of all, if you're generating his name's Michael Smith. If you're generating AI stuff, did he generate his name with, just give me the most generic name you can possibly give? Is he AI? is this whole thing? Does he even exist? That's
We
true.
don't know. We have no idea. It's not a Guinness Book of
This
World
man,
Records.
Michael Smith, used AI to create a fake music band and used bots to inflate streaming numbers. He earned more than $10 million in royalties. That's a success story. That's the American dream.
Yes, totally. That's like what I was kind of alluding at to our music playlist. Like if we could get to a point where we're earning $10 million in royalties from AI music, I mean, it's a complete success story, in my opinion. There's no reason for this guy to be arrested.
No. But man, if those are the photos that you take when you're making $10 million off of AI generated music, people are going to be worried about
He's
us.
staring at that's the picture from his webcam. He's staring at all the money that he's making. He's unbelievable how he doesn't even believe in himself.
It does look surprised.
But actually, I had this conversation with my friend a couple weekends ago about how the music industry is going to change, or it is changing. He brought up the fact that nobody's gonna want to go to a concert anymore, or nobody's gonna. We don't know if it's going to be AI music or not at some point, and I think that that's fine as long as there is somebody with creative, like a creative skill that creates these songs from a creative background and an inspirational background. It doesn't have to be completely that the computer is doing it all themselves. But in order to make money, you're still going to have concerts, I feel. And so these people that do make AI fake music, if they make AI music, there's going to be a use for somebody to get hired as the front man. Like you can create a real band from AI music in the future, I think, and that's who's going to be performing the songs. They can be up on stage lip syncing, and all this AI music is going to be in the background, and they're going to make a ton of money. Like anybody, it could be Taylor Swift or anybody. A lot of these artists could be lip syncing in the future. And with the AI music being played in the background, the fans are still going to go and support them.
I think that it's already happened. We've already manufactured pop stars. Excuse me. So there's precedent for that. And then also the fact that they're already using AI for audio processing, I'm sure, and for
monetization
optimization, like SEO optimization, things like that. They'd be silly not to be using it. So I think the future is now as far as the AI part of music. I think the comfort that I find in it is that there's always going to be people that are better at it and people that are not as good at it. So the cream will still rise to the top. Doesn't matter the instrument that you're using or the tool that you're using. The best people are going to provide the best product, and that's just meritocracy, and it's good. It's a good thing. And then just finally, like the concert experience, while it might be hurting the music industry, as long as there's live music and concerts that people are willing to pay for, that is putting money into your local environment. So talk shit if you want, but we were having this conversation when Napster came around, and the music industry persists, and now it's just going to take on a new form, and we can't fight it because it's going to happen. We just need to be, again, early adopters and try and make it work for us and learn the tools the best we can, because they're here to stay.
Yeah. And one of the top businesses in the future is going to be giving people, like, the pendulum's going to swing one way, and what people are going to be really striving for is that real world experience. So like where the conversation ended with me and my friend was like, he's like, I'm just gonna be really good at doing bonfires, and I'm gonna have people like Airbnb my yard to come and experience a bonfire, and because people are gonna be so digitized at that point that like having a place where we can go to and sit around a campfire, that's going to be the $2,000 an hour type of environment. You know,
Sure.
like whatever you want, price you want to charge is for those. Hey, I'm going to tour you around this city and make you experience what it feels like to walk on the ground around this with like an expert on the local and on the local economy or the local places of hotspots, and that's going to be a really big profit generating business in the future.
That's interesting. I like the fire aspect because that is like the most primal and difficult thing to reproduce, is like looking into a bonfire. You do not get the same experience whatsoever digitally. And you know, sight, smell, and then also we're such a visually and auditorily sensory dependent culture right now. When that stuff gets devalued because it's so easy to create those things, smells and touches of things are going to become the new really kind of strong experience that people are going to search for. So if you can go and touch the wall of a building and like feel the granite, marketing that and being able to be like, hey, really experience this, and yeah, let's charge them out the ass for it because cash is still king.
Yeah, that's a good, that's a really good thing that you just touched on, and it makes me feel like there's going to be, instead of theme parks with roller coasters, it's going to be sensory theme parks where it's all your six senses, sight, taste, touch, whatever, smell, all the different things. And you go into it's almost like a fun house type of, like a carnival style thing, but you like go into this room and you're like, whoa, look at all these things I can touch.
Have you been to a theme park recently?
All the different smells. No,
I went to Universal Studios Orlando last year. Just Amanda and I. We didn't take the kids, they're there, man. Some of those rides, they do spray smells. There's water. There's all of your six senses are engaged, and it's really the craziest, coolest, most fun experience that I've had since I was a little kid. Like basically, so one of these rides, it's a Harry Potter themed ride, and you're in this bench. It's like a bench seat. This bench is articulated. Like I imagine it's on like a giant robotic arm, essentially like a factory style giant robotic arm made for making cars or something is kind of what I imagine. You don't see any of this stuff, but that's what I imagine. And it moves you through kind of like a roller coaster experience, but the screen in front of you is your reference. So it's actually a screen you're looking at, but you're flying through these environments, and it's also spraying you with a little bit of water when you're flying through a cloud. You can smell the dungeons and all that stuff, and it's really awesome.
That's amazing, dude. So that was the one in California?
No, in Florida, in Orlando.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is there a Universal Studio? Yeah, Universal Studios.
The original one.
But is that one?
Is in Universal City.
Because there is a Harry Potter ride there.
Yeah, that's where I grew up going. We used to go to Universal Studios once or twice a year when we were living in Los Angeles, and it's some of my favorite memories, like the Back to the Future ride, or Backdraft was it's like a theater you sit in, but the theater catches on fire and it's real fire. Like you're on this little platform and it's a live action inferno in a factory, and you're in it and you see barrels exploding and it's not a screen, it's a real experience, which was really cool. They had other things too. The Jurassic Park ride was more like a roller coaster.
Park.
Yep. It was more of a traditional roller coaster, but really cool. It was animatronics and stuff like that.
So here's an article about the core skills for 2030. So in here, Basically, it's a quadrant with four boxes, and it's telling us where the actual skills are, core skills that you would need in 2030. I don't have. Oh wait, it is from. It's from sources from the World Economic Forum.
Ooh.
And that's fine. And, they put out some good stuff. They put out some bad stuff.
The bad stuff's really bad though.
And the good stuff's really good. All right, no, just joking. So they're so anyways, the core skills that they're talking about for 2030, which there's the Agenda 2030. A lot of people are scared of these things. Don't be scared. Just fucking understand that they have to put a number to these things.
And find comfort that you're the master of your own future.
Yeah, and you're not in 2030 yet, so you have time to prepare. Like, it would suck if you were already there and they're like, oh yeah, these are the skills that you needed to have, and you're like, fuck, I didn't get to work on any of them. So this basically, they're saying talent management, systems thinking, creative thinking, curiosity, and lifelong learning, leadership and social influence, motivation and self-awareness, analytical thinking, resilience, flexibility, and agility. And out of the park is AI and big data. That's like away from all these other groupings. But like, these are skills that they're talking about.
I love that list, by the way.
It's amazing because when you get into what is actually out of focus and what you shouldn't even worry about if you're thinking about going to, study something in school or whatever, even just picking a new career is like manual dexterity, reading and writing and mathematics, sensory processing abilities, quality control, teaching and mentoring, marketing and media, programming. Literally, programming is at the part of the bottom of the list.
How the tables turn so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you should be looking at talent. You should be looking at being creative. You should be looking at just technological literacy, like motivation, self-awareness, empathy, and active listening. Like, these are the skills, like, to be able to create prompts or to get an AI to do something for you that you actually want to do is actually, it's going to be on those hands-on, touchy-feely things.
It's great.
In your life.
If we reread that list and just applied it, the good list, and applied it to what we're doing with this podcast, it kind of hits every single marker. And then if you describe the list of the negative ones, you're describing the university system that as it exists right now. So it's kind of what we've been talking about in this episode and the first episode. Yeah,
break free. Get yourself out of the box. Think outside the box. Like, they haven't been telling us that for a billion years, whatever. It's like since we were little kids for nothing. Like, it does make sense that everybody that was so programmed to do exactly what they were told, to think exactly what they were to think, to read exactly between the lines, those are all the people that are screwed going forward. The people that said, hell no, I want to think for myself. I want to be creative with my friends. I want to make my own games up in the woods. I want to experience the world and figure out where my senses are in this, like, to create my own place, a sense of place. Those are the people that are just going to fucking blossom going forward.
The people that value the empathy and the community and the collaboration, that's going to flourish. And the number crunching and the accounting side or the analytical side is going to swing to the less desirable aspects of life. I like it.
Me too. What else can we talk about? There's a lot on this list, so bear with us. I know that you're you're s- you're well versed in like real estate and just like things like mortgages and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on this story from Goldman about adjustable rate mortgages climbing to 41% of the total held by U.S. banks, surpassing global financial crisis records?
Well, it's actually a pretty interesting topic, and I wouldn't say I'm super well versed in it because I'm just kind of getting into real estate as a kind of opportunity for myself. But if you're in the industry, you're probably already aware that adjustable rate mortgages they exist for a reason, and there is an advantage if you're taking out an interest rate when it's high and you're responsible and you can manage the expectation of what the market could do. And you have enough capital to back up that decision in case it goes wrong. There is an upside to it's really the smarter way to borrow money when interest rates are high, but you have to just have the sort of the cushion to prepare for worst case scenario also.
So do you think that interest rates are...
I'd be curious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be curious. Yeah, I'm also sorry. I was thinking like, so you're saying when interest rates go down, these people are gonna be better off because their mortgages are also going to decrease in price.
And then also, I would be curious to know how much those numbers are inflated by giant corporate entities taking out these adjustable rate mortgages that have that safety net of capital, because they're the ones that are ultimately going to benefit the most from an adjustable rate style of mortgage. If you're a BlackRock or just a giant real estate entity developer, Berkshire Hathaway, all these giant companies that own a ton of real estate across the country, they're smart in taking out those styles of loans, and they can afford to benefit.
Yeah, that makes total sense what you're saying. And this means that they know something that we all don't know. If 41% are doing adjustable, and you're saying that it's probably, I mean, who's buying houses on the biggest market is the Blackstone and the big players. Yeah. So what is the small person doing and has been doing since 2008? Everybody got scared shitless and they all started doing fixed rate mortgages. And fixed rate mortgages lock you.
Yeah, you're suckered into now your rate's not going to change, but if it goes down, tough shit. You bought when it was high, and it's a easier to understand situation also. So for folks that aren't super educated on it, it feels safer, and it is safer. Don't get me wrong, because there is a huge downside. If this the bubble can always burst more. You think the bubble's burst, it can burst again. What you thought was the lowest point, it can drop even lower. If 2008 kind of
the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent is
correct. Yeah, that's really good advice. Yeah. But if you have the capital to outlast a downswing like these giant corporations do, then it's smart. But for the little people, it sucks because we're stuck in fixed rate mortgages for the next 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, little people aren't even buying houses. Well, they said the average age of a home buyer today is over 56 years old.
Yeah.
30-year-olds today are the lowest number in history of owning a first time or being a first time home buyer. It's just been continuing to go down. 50% of the wealth in this whole entire nation is with the baby boomers. 50%. That means Gen X and millennials and every other generation is splitting the other 50%. The only people that are buying houses today are boomers, and they're buying secondary houses, third houses, fourth houses, because they are trying to basically save money. It's savings. It's not living. They're not living or starting a family. They're just trying to preserve their capital.
Yeah, and grow their investment. I mean, property is still a great investment, no matter how difficult or expensive the loan may be. It's still a net positive at the end of whatever term of mortgage that you agree to. While that amount is greatly diminished because of interest rates, because it kind of goes back to a little bit of sort of a housing crisis situation that's boosting that first time home buyer level of property. It's still desirable. The middle class is going away. There's a lot more lower income folks that need places to live. And you can secure a rental property and make money from your investment. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the amount of new construction of giant home builders and corporations, there's so much money in that these days, and people trying to buy here, just as an example, $150,000 home it's more and more difficult. These people don't, unfortunately, have enough education to know what it even means to get into these agreements. And you can't help but feel bad for folks. They should be educated in this stuff.
What I heard today, which was an amazing stat, is that 70% of Americans can't afford the average home cost to buy the average home cost,
and where they live,
average cost to own a home. Across I think whatever, like the average home cost is around $400 and something thousand dollars for the country.
High, yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty high, but I mean, obviously things skew or whatever. But they say 70% of Americans can't afford that, which means that it's not an average. It's not an average cost of owning a home.
No, the average should be the average amount people can afford.
Like 50% of Americans, not 70.
No, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I deal with a lot of, first time home buyers, and I want to help them to live the American dream, right? I mean, owning a home is kind of one of the great benchmarks that we have in this country for independence and success and things like that. And I just want everybody to realize that your credit score is important. Your employment history is important, and your debt to income ratio is important. Those are three things that you need to have control over, or the doors don't open for you. They just stay shut. So, if you're going to be doing anything financially, don't take out more debt than you can afford. Honestly, your income is one of the least important factors in the situation. It's a ratio. It's literally just your debt to income ratio. So if you can maintain a livable wage, but also not rely on exorbitant amounts of credit, you need a little bit, obviously. You're going to put yourself in a better spot to live out the dream and own something.
And that goes along with this story here. For the first time since 2006, it's now twice as expensive to buy an entry-level home than it is to rent.
Yeah. They really want the corporations want to own all those. They want you to rent it from them. Yeah, so they're going to jack up those prices by means that are complicated. We could get into it though.
Well, they're able to access the capital. They're the ones that are able to access to actually get the loan secured.
Yeah, the reason I said it was complicated is that it's not as in your face as it might sound. It's not gentrification so much as it is. It's a systemic sort of process that will make it more and more difficult for an average person to afford the property, but then also to improve the property on their own. So you have to go into debt in order to improve your property enough to have it increase in value. The cost of construction materials, the labor rate of getting these things done. And I know you're pretty close to this, and it's not across the board. There's very reputable and good places that don't gouge people for these things, but it's still almost unattainably expensive for someone to take a first-time home and turn it into something that someone would be very happy to live the rest of their life in. It's very difficult right now to improve.
Yeah, there's a guy called his name's Robert Kiyosaki. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No.
He's kind of a finance kind of guy, and he's written a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's one of the
Yeah,
bestsellers.
I know about him. Yeah.
Okay. So his main thing that really always stuck with me was that the house is, everybody puts it in the asset bucket, but it's actually a liability.
Yeah.
And that liability is having to do with property taxes. You know, they can get jacked up at any point in time. It's having to do with construction. So the materials that are used to build a house, it's like a car that gets driven off the parking lot of a new car dealership. It immediately, or that immediate value of that new car drops by 20% as soon as it leaves the lot. It's the same with a house that gets lived in. It's made out of wood that deteriorates, made out of, all of the materials to build a house are designed to, not designed, but that they have a life to them.
And they're not
So
designed to last forever. They're designed to be as inexpensive as possible.
And so what you're talking about is, that the value itself, like you actually do have to do maintenance. Maintenance is almost a break-even strategy. And that's putting a lot of time and energy and value of your own hard work and value into the house in order just to maintain it. Maintain like
You're
stability
telling me, buddy.
of that value. And those gutters need to be cleaned. You better get up there tomorrow.
I get up
dude.
there all the time.
All right, good. All right.
Not as often as I need to.
We should just sign off right now. You need to go and do that right now. No, but no, seriously. So that's just maintenance. That means just to maintain the stable value. Now, if you want to actually make improvements, so to make value go up, that takes a lot more money. That's you think about your maintenance cost, just double it or triple it in order to create another 20%, value on the actual value of the home.
And I think that you're right that the house is a liability on a piece of property. But what's interesting is that still the property itself, the land itself, is an asset.
That's the asset. Yeah.
So really, location is, it's a tale as old as time. Location. But then also, if you can improve the land itself, like, as you know, that's your job, is improving the land. That's where you can see returns, and it's not cheap, it's not easy, and it's really difficult to actually make anything better. The earth did it the way it wanted to do it the first time, and then you're going in and trying to make it better. It's a challenge. You're fighting nature in a way, but also you can do it where you integrate it into nature, and that's even more expensive, but also way cooler.
Still has a lifetime. It's the same with, in the sense of, dealing with your property on the outside. It has a lifetime. So people take the exterior of their house and they put a shit ton of money into it. And then they literally wipe their hands clean and they go away, and 10 years later, everything out there looks like shit again. So it's the same thing though, like as the house itself is the exterior too. It is a maintenance nightmare. It is a constant battle against man versus nature on all fronts when you own something like a piece of property or a house. And that's why, like you're saying, integrating it into the landscape is almost doing as minimal as possible to the outside, and just choosing the right piece of property and integrating it in a way where you are in symbiotic relationship with nature, instead of trying to fight it and put all this concrete or put all this rebar and things in order to put all this money into it, when it's just going to break that shit down no matter what civil engineer you get or whoever to design the walls. Yeah,
if you find it like an existing like stone cave or something and you trick that out into your house, and you need some glass.
Are we all going back to...
And you need some doors.
Are we all going back to the caves to live in the caves again?
I mean...
And we just need a bonfire and a cave and a little tiny little fish on a stick.
And a on a and a giant pop star that does AI music.
Yeah, obviously there's a computer in the back of the cave that just is, and we pray to the computer.
It's like a little shrine built around the computer.
Yeah,
candles and stuff. Yeah.
Dude, the future looks bright to me, honestly. If that's what the future is, it's going to be an AI cave, a cave with an AI in the corner. You could have a whole entire civilization built off of that for sure. I don't think that we need to have governments fuck us over anymore. I think that if we just had a subsistence living with an AI in the corner, offline AI that's able to give us all the Library of Alexandria information and build the best community possible, it would be, and create laws and order and all these things without like human intervention or human interaction.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
We need it to tell people what they need to hear, not what humans think other people want to hear. We need it to be honest with us, and then it will benefit us no matter what. Even if it's things we don't want to hear, it's the things we need to hear, that we're kind of missing from the last century of information that we've been fed.
Yeah. Speaking of the environment and what is outside of our lives and our built environment, and also going back to the screw worm story and cattle and what we are, what we eat. Texas just approved using treated fracking water to irrigate crops. That means this is what I'm reading. That means unknown chemicals from oil and gas could end up in the food supply.
Yeah, it's Terrible.
The law HB 49 kicks in September 1st, 2025. It allows recycled wastewater to be spread on fields or flow into streams. Officials frame it as a drought solution.
No, it's just a way that they can get rid of their wastewater without having to pay for it.
Unbelievable. Anyways, there's a lot to go through here. I think that we're just going to have to come back next week and really hit our fans with some more really high power, insightful information, and not leave them some time to actually distill this into them and perceive what the hell is going on. And so we should come back next week and talk more about it.
I want them to do their own research. We're going to see what news articles we generate in the world next week, like we did this week. How everything we talked about just hit the fan a little bit more. And if you care about what we think about it, like, subscribe, hit the little bell icon, and then you can hear what we think.
$600,000 shadows flood the halls. Whispers traded in fluorescent walls. A parasite crawls through Maryland nights, and the headlines read like funeral rites. The future stitched with broken thread. We trade clean hands for profit blood. Feels like a requiem nobody chose. We're drinking fire from the fracking streams, selling our hunger for somebody's drain. Banks built their empires on adjustable lies, while the rest of us drown under corporate skies. So tear it down, the news you feed. Give me the truth and the air I need. Texas rain tastes like rust and stone. Fields of poison where the crops are grown. The world says learn to feel, not fight. But empathy burns in the sleepless night. The local voices fade to static as headlines turn the tragic. Cinematic, what's real gets buried under digital towers. But we're still bleeding human powers. We're drinking fire from the fracking streams, selling a hunger for somebody's drain. Banks built their empires on adjustable lies, while the rest of us drown under corporate skies. So tear it down, the news you feed. Give me the truth and the air I need. If this is the future, it's stitched in decay, a carnival of ghosts with nothing to say. AI sings with the hollowed out throat, but I'll burn every note just to feel what I wrote. We're drinking fire from the fracking streams, selling our hunger for somebody's dream. Parasites crawling through the seams, but I'm still alive in the wreck of these screams. So tear it down, the lies you feed. Give me the truth and the air I need. 600,000 shadows in the halls. but only silence answers when the future calls.